Tonight, the NDP calls out the Premier for meeting with conspiracy theorists at a town hall meeting.
Ladies talking about the chemtrails.
It's a fact.
Also, a massive spike in Ozempic medication claims in Saskatchewan, and why Obesity Canada says drug plans are discriminating between diabetes and obesity. Plus, what a difference a year makes. We'll tell you how consistent rain has improved drought in Saskatchewan.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, June 12th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for watching. Classes at Saskatoon's Fairhaven Elementary School were cancelled for today as Saskatoon police investigated the city's 11th homicide of the year. Police officers were called to the 400 block of Forester Road after receiving a report about an injured man around 6 o'clock this morning. The 66-year-old man was taken to hospital where he died. The school was closed as a precaution and people were told to avoid the area. Police are asking those living in the area to review any security cameras for suspicious activity from early this morning and to check their yards and garbage bins for discarded evidence. A woman is dead after a crash in Saskatoon that sent 3 other people to hospital in critical condition. Police say it happened on Quebec Avenue near 39th Street East last night. Police say a speeding truck collided with an SUV carrying 4 people. They were sent to hospital in critical condition, but one of them died, a 22-year-old woman. The man who police say was driving the other vehicle was arrested. The 23-year-old is facing 4 charges, including dangerous driving causing death and dangerous driving causing bodily harm. Police say the driver was not impaired. A surprising twist in the trial of John Olabobakun today. The former Saskatoon private Christian school director is charged with several counts of assault with a weapon. Those charges go back to alleged incidents about 2 decades ago during his time at what's now known as Legacy Christian Academy. The trial was scheduled until tomorrow, but the judge ruled today that the 64-year-old will get more time until fall to mount his defense. A former student says the adjournment was frustrating and disappointing.
John Olababokin's representation was not ready to proceed and felt unprepared for court. When all of us have, been prepared and, that are testifying, everyone's here. So, it does seem to be a bit of a delay tactic and a stall tactic, but we will just keep pursuing this and pushing it through.
Everyone's stories are definitely different, but the consistencies with the way that everything happened, was all leading up towards the same thing. I'm trying to manage my expectations when it comes to this. Honestly, the only thing I just want to see is the fact that he just gets held accountable for what he did, and I think that means he's guilty.
The Crown called 11 witnesses this week, and the defense was to begin presenting its case. It will now be expected to do that starting October 23rd through 25th. Opposition NDP leader Carla Beck says Premier Scott Moe should be shutting down conspiracy theories, not entertaining them. It comes out of a recent town hall in the community of Spears. Adam Hunter explains.
Premier Scott Moe spent 2 hours speaking and answering questions at this meeting in Spears. Moe covered familiar ground like his opposition to the federal carbon tax and his government's parental rights bill. He was also asked a wide variety of questions, like this one about chemtrails.
Or what are you going to do about the barium, aluminum, strontium, lithium, atrazine, raw kerosene, raw gasoline, and raw diesel that's being dumped on your province by God knows who?
I am starting to hear about this through emails into our office the last number of months, and I'll have to do some more work looking into it. I don't know if there's as coordinated as approach as some folks think, but there obviously are emissions that are coming out of the jets that are flying over, and the prospect is, or the projection is, there's going to be a lot more jets flying in the not too distant future than there is today.
A University of Chicago physicist who's debunked chemtrail conspiracies over the years says that aircraft do release pollution, but he says there is no evidence of a secret government program to put toxic chemicals into planes and spread them over the population.
To be clear, I listened to the clip that Scott Moe said, and he didn't agree there was a conspiracy, but he said he'd heard things for months and they were looking into it. And I think it's possible to do better than that. It's possible to find polite ways to say that it's just really inconceivable that there is such a large-scale program.
The meeting has NDP leader Carla Beck questioning Moe. She says he should have rejected conspiracies.
As soon as they hear one angry respondent or a town hall participant, talk about chemtrails or conspiracy theorists involving your healthcare workers, you fold like a cheap tent. That's not leadership.
Another attendee questioned the Saskatchewan Health Authority's role in the pandemic. The questioner said the SHA was, quote, instituting the COVID pandemic with a delivery system for biological weapons. Moe said he would read the man's document.
It shouldn't have been difficult for the Premier to simply say, you know what, that's not the case. Saskatchewan healthcare workers, the SHA, were not involved in poisoning the population or delivering biological weapons during the pandemic. But you didn't hear him say that, which is a problem. You should say the same thing in every room, even when it's hard.
A spokesperson for the Premier says he listened to and responded to concerns raised at the meeting. Initially, the government said that the mayor of Spears invited the Premier to the event, but the mayor says that's not the case. He says that the local town hall was rented out by some residents who hosted the meeting. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
There's been a huge surge in the number of Ozempic prescriptions in Saskatchewan. It's traditionally a drug for diabetes, but it's gained popularity for helping people lose weight. The growing demand had sparked calls for more coverage. Bonnie Allen reports.
Chamundi Salvaraj has type 2 diabetes and is exactly the kind of person for whom Ozempic was initially designed. The injectable drug mimics a hormone that regulates blood glucose levels and curbs appetite.
I'm using Ozempic because I am diabetic and I'm motivated to get my sugar levels down and in control.
She's not using it to lose weight, and it would seem she's in the minority among Ozempic users in Saskatchewan. In 2019, there were about 5,700 Ozempic claims, and that shot up to 195,000 claims in 2023. The Saskatchewan drug plan only covers Ozempic for type 2 diabetes, and according to the province, less than half of all claims received provincial coverage. As for the rest, some are for federally insured Indigenous patients, but many would be for off-label uses like weight loss.
So I reached 300 pounds. I'm currently about 230, 236.
Next door in Manitoba, Hart Macklin takes Ozempic to stop overeating. He wants to switch to Ozempic's sister drug, Wegovy. It's designed specifically for weight loss. He argues that public and private drug plans should cover obesity-treating drugs.
You don't want to wait until you're already, suffering from diabetes 2 before you start to manage it.
It's not terribly expensive.
This health policy expert says Ozempic is a pretty good deal at about $300 a month per person. But
it's a big ticket item if massive numbers of people use it.
There are some insurance providers that do actually cover obesity management, but that's a minority.
Obesity Canada says there is resistance from governments, insurance providers, and taxpayers who don't want to pay for obesity drug treatment.
We're not talking about people who have a small amount of weight that want to lose weight for, a wedding or something like that, or, beach season. This is about people who have a chronic disease, a serious chronic condition. And they need support.
More demand for these drugs will most certainly lead to more attention to how they're used and who pays. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Swift Current.
We finally have an opening date for Regina's new urgent care center. Starting July 2nd, it will operate from 8 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. every day. Come fall, the doors will stay open 24 hours. It's part of an action plan to reduce overcrowding in hospitals by treating patients with non-life-threatening injuries. A 5-story, 90-unit apartment complex has been approved by Regina City Council. 9 councillors voted for it during a special meeting last night.
We're making decisions, both public opinion matter, but public interest, as it relates to the entire city also matters. We're looking for housing options in every neighborhood. On existing infrastructure is what intensification is all about. And so the ability to find underutilized land and build some missing middle housing options is important for the entire city.
This development faced stiff opposition from people in Douglas Park, where it's going to be built. Along with underground parking, the apartment complex will have a built-in daycare. 16 months of construction is expected to begin next spring. Regina's new Central Library branch is one step closer to reality. The library's board approved a motion yesterday to ask the city for money for the new building. They'll request that next week at Executive Committee. The board is asking the city to take on $92 to $119 million in debt for the new library. 2 years ago, the RPL board voted to build a new library with a preference for the current location. The RPL board says it's now looking at a smaller 125,000 square foot building in downtown Regina. Former Regina Symphony Orchestra conductor Victor Sawa has died. Sawa led the RSO for nearly 20 years, from 1997 to 2016. A popular fixture in the community, Sawa expanded the RSO's musical reach by holding outdoor concerts and through themed symphony nights, such as the annual RSO Goes to the Oscars concert. Sawa was simultaneously music director for the Saskatoon and Sudbury Symphonies for several years during his time with the RSO. A Facebook post from the orchestra says Sawa had been sick for some time. He passed away peacefully this morning with his family by his side. Well, it was a windy, cloudy day in Saskatoon with periods of rain and active weather too. It's been a pretty mixed bag across the province today. Ethan will fill you in on what's happening and where things are going after the break. Stay with us. Let's be honest, rain has not been a stranger here this spring. It's a big change from the hot and dry springs we've had in recent years. And as Ethan Williams will tell us, it's a welcome change for those who have been too dry for way too long.
Standing water hasn't been a common sight on prairie fields over the last few years, but Bill Probilski's farm near Yorkton has seen its fair share of rain this past month.
We're fortunate here. We've been able to get the crop in the ground. Obviously, there's more than enough moisture now to get the crops germinated and get them off to a good start.
In fact, many locations in the province saw above average moisture last month, the first time that's happened in about a year and a half. Some regions were in severe to extreme drought as recently as the end of April, but that's changed dramatically as of the end of May, with parts of southwestern Saskatchewan and southeastern Alberta out of any drought classification for the first time in more than 3 years. The moisture is the result of several low-pressure systems packed with rain moving across the prairies. An active weather pattern not seen here for some time. It comes after a winter dominated by El Niño, the global weather pattern which sends warm and dry air from the equatorial Pacific into the prairies. The pattern is now breaking down, and it could be a reason why things are changing.
During these transition zones, it is possible to kind of flip that switch, to go from sort of a warmer and drier to more of a more average, and certainly increase in precipitation that we've seen. It is possible for that to happen, and it's quite welcome, actually.
Hydrologist John Pomeroy says the rain may be good news for farmers, but it's too late to fill critical prairie waterways in time for summer.
The stream flow really depends on the overwinter snowpack and the rate at which that melts. And those snowpacks, when they melted back in April, were still below normal, and so stream flow was short and sweet.
It is good news for the forest fire situation. This time last year, Saskatchewan had more than double the number of fires we've seen so far this year, and more than 50 times the amount of hectares burned by fires. But experts warn the forest can dry out fast.
really takes a few hours after a light rainfall for that to dry out. But if you have a heavier rain, well, maybe it's going to take a couple of days, but then you can get surface fires going.
A concern as Environment Canada's summer forecast calls for warmer and drier than normal weather. Ethan Williams, CBC News, Regina.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. Truck time is on now.
And just like that, Ethan, appears. You mentioned it could be hotter and drier than normal this summer. Are we able to tell just how bad things could get?
Well, the crystal ball, of course, not quite in my hands, Sam, but we do have some tools that can help predict how bad it could get. This is a look at just how above, or the percentage, I should say, the chance that we could see above normal temperatures through the province. And again, if you're in the yellow here, there's a 70 to 80% chance we'll see above normal conditions through June, July, and August, 80 to 90% in the orange. And if you're up in areas like South End and kind of in the Reindeer Lake area, maybe even Wollaston Lake, there is a very good chance that we'll be above average. This doesn't tell us how much above average, but it kind of gives us an idea of what we can expect through this summer. Precipitation-wise, it's kind of harder to pick out the trend there, but there's no areas of the province that are expecting above normal moisture. In fact, there are some areas looking at below normal conditions. But nonetheless, we are still seeing some moisture of our own today in the form of some thunderstorms moving through southeastern Saskatchewan. This was the last cell that was moving along Highway 16. It is now just moving out of the Langenburg area, crossing the Manitoba border. And earlier we had reports of some very large hail and possibly some funnel clouds in this part of the province today. So I'm sure Environment Canada will be looking into that. But most of the inclement weather has now moved into Manitoba along this frontal boundary. But it's this, pardon me, this low pressure system. It's not only taking my breath away, but is causing those showers and some strong wind gusts today as well. We've had gusts near 70 once again in Regina this afternoon, but you can see where the center of that low is. As to the north of there, we are seeing some much calmer conditions, and it's also causing temperatures to swing quite a bit. Still in the 20s in the southeast, but now down only between 10 and 15 degrees where rain is falling in central Saskatchewan. We are going to start to see that move out overnight, though. Thunderstorms expected to die down. Tomorrow morning, though, look for some increasing cloudiness and possible showers through much of south and central. And by the supper hour, maybe some pop-up showers and thunderstorms in east central areas. Friday, a little more increasing cloudiness before our next low begins to move in. That brings some showers to the north. And that also means that winds will pick up a little bit in southern and central Saskatchewan, but not nearly as much as we've seen here today and especially last week. Generally, we're looking for a few millimeters of rain with those pop-up showers. Central areas could get a few more millimeters in there with some heavier showers. So for Regina, chance of rain tomorrow under partly cloudy skies, breezy a little bit here and there. Friday, Saturday have been looking nice all week, and they continue to look nice in this forecast, at least, before temperatures drop down for Sunday and for the beginning of next week. And for Saskatoon, we are looking for a little bit of a cooler day tomorrow with a chance of some showers and maybe some thunderstorms later in the afternoon. Friday, Saturday also looking nice for you, and maybe some rain in there as well. So yes, Sam, the crystal ball of the long-term outlook, a little hard to look at, but at least we have an idea of what might be coming.
I have some other questions for that crystal ball.
Yeah, well, ask away.
Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
We're back with more news after the break. The first Black general manager in CFL history is being inducted into the Rough Riders Plaza of Honour. The Riders say Roy Shivers will be inducted in October. Joining him in this year's class is star quarterback Durant and the late Steve Molnar, a running back who played in the 70s. Shivers was previously recognized for his recruiting talent when he was inducted into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. He once traded for two future Grey Cup winning quarterbacks for the Riders in a single trade. One of those QBs was Durant, who went on to lead the Riders in the 2013 championship at home. Durant says if given the chance, he would do some things differently.
I just want to be transparent. I was offered a contract from Chris Jones and the staff, and it was me who turned it down. And, so looking back, of course, I would have loved to finish my career and been able to stay with the Riders my entire career.
Well, I was in shock, first of all, because I never thought it would happen with all the things that gone on in the past. And I was happy, and I was kind of satisfied. I said, at least they finally understand that I did a halfway decent job while I was there. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that, but I never thought it would happen.
Durant, Molnar, and Shivers will be formally inducted during a special ceremony at halftime on October 12th in the game against the BC Lions. Now, the Saskatchewan Roughriders were back at practice today, first time since locking in that first win of the season. The Riders beat the Elks 29-21 in Edmonton on Saturday. And while the team is prepping to take on Hamilton this weekend, there is still a lot of fuss around the performance of Sean Bain Jr. The wide receiver scored 3 touchdowns in the season opener, and Bain Jr. says quarterback Trevor Harris did note some real holes in the Elks defense and exploited them. But he says they've also been working at this from before day one of camp.
We actually came up to camp kind of early just to, work some of the kinks out and go into camp, full stride, and I think we did exactly that. So that's only the beginning, and I think we can do a lot more damage.
It's one of those things where it's a kind of rare occasion, so if you got a lot of points in fantasy from him, I wouldn't trade him, but I wouldn't expect 3 touchdowns every game, although that'd be nice.
I'd love to say that I was sitting there shocked, but we saw this throughout camp quite often. With the talents that we have in that room, and then last week it was Bain's day, and maybe it could be this week as well. But if you lock in on one of those guys, there's going to be some other guys that are going to be open.
Kickoff against the Ticats is at 5 o'clock on Sunday. And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
And after the thunderstorms that kept us up in Regina last night, we are looking for a much clearer evening with those winds diminishing. As we get into tomorrow morning, skies should be mostly sunny for the most part, but there is a chance of some showers and then a little bit of increasing cloudiness as we get into the afternoon. Chance of showers once again. Should be clear of thunderstorms for the most part. A little bit breezy winds 40 to 50 from the northwest. Saskatoon, it may not be the thunderstorms, but you will get a few showers or a chance of showers at least for tonight, and that continues into tomorrow morning, likely by the commute, and by the time you're heading out the door, likely some showers here and there, possibly some clearing by the noon hour. There is a chance of showers for the noon hour as well, with possibly some thunderstorms again. Sam, I'll hand that crystal ball now back over to you.
Oh, I look forward to that. Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to our website. You can subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your phone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.